Alright, let's talk about something most people never think about until the lights go out. Wires. They're hidden behind our walls, snaking through our attics, doing the thankless job of keeping our world humming. It's easy to think all wires are the same, but that's like saying all jobs are the same, not even close. When you're pulling wire for a new house or a massive skyscraper, the metal inside that plastic sheathing, usually copper or aluminum, is a huge decision. It's not just about getting power from point A to point B. It's about safety, performance, and whether the whole system will stand the test of time or cause a world of headaches down the road. I've spent a lot of time with electricians, the folks who really get their hands dirty with this stuff. They'll tell you that choosing the wrong wire is a recipe for disaster. A wire that can't handle the electrical load can overheat, melt its protective coating, and spark a fire. That's a dirty job nobody wants to clean up. On the other hand, using the right wire for the job ensures everything runs efficiently. Your appliances get the steady power they need, your breakers don't trip every 5 minutes, and you can sleep at night knowing the electrical guts of your building are solid, safe, and doing their job without complaint. The choice between copper and aluminum isn't just a technical detail for engineers to argue about, it has real-world consequences. Imagine you're wiring a home. You want connections that will stay tight and secure for decades, not something that might work loose and create a fire hazard. Now imagine you're wiring a power grid that stretches for miles. The sheer weight of the wire becomes a massive factor, affecting the cost and engineering of the whole project. Each metal has its place, its own set of pros and cons, and understanding them is the first step in doing the job right. So before we dive into the nitty-gritty, let's get one thing straight. This isn't just about picking the cheaper option and calling it a day. This is about respecting the work and understanding the materials. It's about knowing why a seasoned pro might choose one over the other. The ultimate showdown between copper and aluminum isn't about which one is better in a vacuum. It's about which one is the right tool for the specific, often dirty job at hand. And trust me, getting that choice right is what separates a job well done from a job you'll have to do over. When you get down to brass tacks, or in this case copper and aluminum, the first thing you have to look at is how well each metal moves electricity. This is called conductivity, and it's where copper really shines. Copper is the gold standard, one of the most conductive metals on the planet, second only to silver. That means electricity flows through it with very little resistance. Less resistance means less energy is lost as heat, making the whole system more efficient and safer. When you need to pack a lot of electrical punch into a small space, copper is your champion, hands down. Now aluminum isn't a slouch. It's a good conductor, just not as good as copper. To be specific, an aluminum wire needs to be about 1.6 times larger in cross-sectional area to carry the same amount of current as a copper wire. Think of it like a water pipe. To get the same flow, you need a bigger pipe if it has more friction. This is a critical detail. It means for the same job you'll need a physically thicker aluminum wire. That might not matter for a single run, but in a conduit packed with wires, space can get tight real fast. But here's where the script flips. Let's talk about weight. I've seen crews hauling massive spools of cable up utility poles and through endless feet of commercial buildings, and I can tell you, weight matters. A lot. Aluminum, despite needing to be thicker, is incredibly lightweight. A spool of aluminum wire can weigh half as much as a copper spool with the same current carrying capacity. For large-scale projects like overhead power lines that stretch for miles, this is a game changer. Using copper would require stronger, more expensive support structures to hold up all that extra weight. This weight difference is the reason you see aluminum dominating the world of utility service lines. It's simply more practical and cost-effective to hang a lighter wire over long distances. For the guys and gals doing the work, it's a whole lot easier on their backs too. So you have a trade-off. Copper gives you superior performance in a smaller package, which is perfect for tight spaces like the walls of your home. Aluminum gives you a lighter, more manageable option for big, sprawling installations where every pound adds up. It's a classic case of brute strength versus lightweight efficiency. Let's be honest, for most projects, big or small, it eventually comes down to money. And when you put copper and aluminum head-to-head on price, it's not much of a fight. Copper is a more valuable commodity, and its price on the market reflects that. It's almost always significantly more expensive than aluminum. For a small home rewiring project, the price difference might be manageable. But when you start talking about wiring an entire apartment complex or a commercial warehouse, the cost savings from choosing aluminum can be enormous. We're talking thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars. This cost difference is why aluminum wiring had a surge in popularity in residential construction back in the 60s and 70s when copper prices shot through the roof. Builders were looking for a way to keep costs down, and aluminum seemed like the perfect answer. While that led to some issues we'll get into later, it highlights a key point. Sometimes the budget dictates the material. For service entrance cables, the thick wires that run from the utility pole to your house, aluminum is still the standard choice today, precisely because it delivers the necessary power at a fraction of the cost of copper. But cost isn't just what you pay up front. It's also about how long the material lasts and how much work it takes to maintain. This is where copper earns its keep. Copper is highly resistant to corrosion and oxidation. When it does oxidize, it forms a green patina that is still conductive, so the connection remains stable. This durability means that once a copper connection is properly installed, you can pretty much forget about it. It will sit there, doing its job reliably for decades with minimal fuss, which is exactly what you want from something buried in your walls. Aluminum, on the other hand, requires a bit more babysitting. When aluminum is exposed to air, it forms an oxide layer that is highly resistive, not conductive. This can cause connections to loosen, overheat, and become a serious fire hazard if not handled correctly. Aluminum is also softer and more prone to expanding and contracting with temperature changes, a process called thermal cycling, which can also loosen connections over time. This doesn't mean aluminum is bad, but it does mean it has higher maintenance needs and requires specialized installation techniques to ensure it remains safe and durable for the long haul. Now for the part of the job that really separates the pros from the amateurs, making sure the work is safe. You can't just swap out copper for aluminum and call it a day. They behave differently, and if you don't respect those differences, you're asking for trouble. With copper, the job is relatively straightforward. Because it's a harder, more stable metal, connections are robust. You tighten the screw on a terminal, and that copper wire stays put. It doesn't expand or contract as much, so the connection remains tight and secure over the years, which is key to preventing sparks and overheating. Installing aluminum wire, however, is a different beast altogether. This is where the real skill comes in. Because aluminum is softer, it can be easily nicked or damaged during installation, creating a weak spot that can overheat under load. Electricians have to be extra careful when stripping the insulation off. Furthermore, to combat that pesky, resistive oxide layer that forms on aluminum, you have to use a special antioxidant compound. This goop gets slathered on the bare wire before it's connected, preventing oxygen from getting to the metal and keeping the connection solid and conductive. The tools for the job are different too. You can't use the same outlets and switches for both. Devices must be specifically rated for aluminum wire. Look for a COALR or ALCU marking on switches and receptacles. These devices are designed to handle aluminum's unique properties, particularly its tendency to expand and contract. Using a standard outlet designed for copper with an aluminum wire is a classic mistake that can lead to a loose, arcing connection, a major fire hazard that gave aluminum a bad reputation in the past. It wasn't the wire's fault, it was improper installation. Ultimately, safety boils down to knowledge and proper procedure. A skilled electrician knows these rules inside and out. They know to use a torque screwdriver to tighten aluminum connections to the exact specification, preventing them from being too loose or too tight. They know which connectors to use and how to apply the antioxidant paste correctly. It's a testament to the fact that the material is only as good as the person installing it. Doing it right means a safe, reliable system. Cutting corners with either metal, but especially with aluminum, is a gamble you never want to take. So, after all this back and forth, what's the final call? Copper or aluminum? The truth is, there's no single winner. The ultimate showdown ends in a draw, because the best choice depends entirely on the job you're doing. It's about picking the right tool from the toolbox. For most of the wiring inside your home, the circuits running to your outlets, switches, and light fixtures, copper is the undisputed king. Its superior conductivity, durability, and ease of installation make it the safest and most reliable choice for these smaller gauge applications where space is tight and long-term stability is paramount. However, once you step outside the house and look at the bigger picture, aluminum makes a compelling case for itself. For the heavy-duty service entrance cables that bring power from the utility line to your electrical panel, aluminum is the industry standard. Its lightweight and lower cost make it the logical choice for these thick, power-hungry lines. The same goes for the power company. The overhead and underground lines that make up our nation's power grid are almost exclusively aluminum for the exact same reasons. The cost and weight savings on that scale are simply too massive to ignore. Let's break it down into simple advice. If you're a homeowner doing a renovation or wiring a new room, stick with copper. It's more forgiving for DIY work, and the peace of mind is well worth the extra cost. For electricians and contractors, the choice is more nuanced. Copper remains the go-to for most interior branch circuit wiring, but for feeder lines in large buildings and main service lines, aluminum, when installed correctly by a qualified professional using the right tools and materials, is a perfectly safe, reliable, and cost-effective solution. In the end, this isn't about brand loyalty to one metal over another. It's about respecting the properties of each and knowing their place. Both copper and aluminum are essential to our modern world. They work together, often in the same building, to get the job done. Copper handles the fine details and aluminum does the heavy lifting. Understanding that division of labor is what keeps the lights on safely and efficiently, and that's a job worth doing right every single time.